Oh boy, another game about that good old war in the stars is coming. You thought it was over with Jedi Survivor, you thought it would end with Star Wars Outlaws, but you were wrong. As long as there are stars, there will be wars among them. I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey guys, it's me again, Waifu Belector, the only fair human on Earth, here this time to talk about one of my favorite franchises of all time. Certainly my favorite franchise about magic space wizards with laser swords. I am of course talking about Star Wars. And we've got some kinda big news about a new Star Wars game that I'll get right into. Just remember to give the video a like and consider subscribing if you end up enjoying. Okay, so yesterday we had a recent gaming rumor all but confirmed. That rumor being that a Madalorian game was in development. Of course, the rumor was talking about a game centered around the Madalorian, Din Djarin, and based off of the character and the show, and that now has mostly been confirmed with a decent amount of details attached. So who the hell is making this game? Well, it is none other than longtime Star Wars collaborator EA, and more specifically the more recent Star Wars collaborator and well-renowned dev studio Respawn Entertainment. So yes, it appears that alongside the third game in the Jedi series, Respawn will also be cooking up this Madalorian game. Quite the undertaking, but I can hardly think of a better suited studio to handle this. But don't worry, who's making the game isn't all we know. We don't just have to build a case of pure assumptions based on the developer. We do have some details. Let's start with what we know narratively. Now earlier I said that a Madalorian game was mostly confirmed, and I said mostly because we know that in this game you will be playing as a Madalorian bounty hunter. But right now it is unconfirmed if that bounty hunter is Mando himself, Din Djarin, Pedro Pascal. We don't actually know who the bounty hunter is just yet. It could be a completely new character or even a created character, for all we know. A bit of info we do have though is that this game is set during a time where the Galactic Empire is dominating the galaxy. So this gives us a time frame, and seeing as how Mando is like in his 30s in the show, and the show is set about 5 years after the Battle of Endor when the Empire fell, it's completely possible that we could be playing as Mando because he would have been an adult bounty hunter for some years during the reign of the Empire. That would then of course make this game a prequel, so that would mean no Grogu, which is fine. Grogu I think would just muddy a game up, and also Mando and Grogu are already getting a movie as well. If this is in fact a real Mando game, then the prequel approach is certainly the best option. That would give the writers some freedom to do what they want to some degree without them having to worry about the future of Mando and Grogu too much. Because I don't think that the bounty hunting years before Grogu have really been explored for Mando besides what, like the very first episode of The Mandalorian. But yeah, I suppose technically they could also choose to do a Boba Fett focused game, right? There's a lot of unaccounted Boba Fett continuity during the Empire's rule. But man, let's be honest, we don't give a shit about that anymore, do we? We don't want a Boba Fett game anymore. We're over it, right? I mean, we wanted it for a really long time, but we're beyond that now, aren't we? Mando has effectively replaced Boba as the de facto cool Mandalorian. If Respawn isn't going with a new character, if they aren't going with a customizable character, I don't see any reason for it to not be Mando. And I honestly don't think we should have yet another Mandalorian bounty hunter as the focal point of anything else. So for that reason, I'm kinda against a new original character, but I think it'd be okay if the character was customizable. However, that comes with its own issues of either decanonizing or at least somewhat illegitimizing the story. This game being a Din Djarin Mandalorian prequel is probably its best option. Now that what little narrative details we have are out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay details we have. The biggest thing is that this game will reportedly be in first person, which may be a tad disappointing to some, but let me explain why I think that choice was made. Mainly, it probably has to do with the fact that Respawn already has a series of third-person Star Wars games, the Jedi games. So in order to handily differentiate this new game, it's best to have an entirely different perspective. That could be the thinking behind the decision. But if you know Respawn, then you know that they made both Titanfall 2 and Apex Legends. Apex has some of the best gunplay in a modern shooter, and Titanfall 2 is often touted as having one of the best single-player FPS experiences. And with Titanfall 3 probably never fucking happening, Respawn might want to flex those muscles here in this Mando game. Some other key details are that the game will have a focus on mobility and style and will be very fast paced. If you've played or seen Titanfall 2, an emphasis on mobility and style shouldn't shock you. It was mentioned that these goals of fast paced stylish mobility are made easier by the narrative fact that our unnamed Mandalorian bounty hunter would have a jetpack and grappling hook, and that the narrative existence of the jetpack will allow for things like a horizontal dash, high vertical leaps, and boost sliding. As expected, there will also be a bunch of other gadgets like wrist rockets and your visor that will allow you to tag enemies. Within this leak or reveal or whatever, it was also told to us that at these early stages in the game's development, the main way to regenerate health seems to be by racking up successive kills. And so that naturally sounds to me very doomish and has me wondering if you'll regain ammo by killing enemies in specific ways, or regain specific ammo by killing enemies in specific ways like Doom. But we'll just have to wait for more official details to find that out. For now though, we do also know that the game is single player, but it will be level based and linear, not open world like Outlaws or open zone like Jedi Survivor. And finally, per this report, this game is at the very least 2 years away. If I had to guess though, it'll probably be longer. But yeah, I think this is very interesting. A bounty hunting Mandalorian game from Respawn seems like a good idea. I'm still on the fence about who I want the player character to be, but now that I think about it, the mention of those gadgets kinda exclude Din Djarin because we saw him get some of those. So that would exclude Mando altogether, or simply not make it a prequel if it was him. So now I'm leaning closer to a created character, or who knows, maybe even Boba Fett. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let me know what you think. Does this sound cool to you at all? Let me know all your thoughts. Drop them in the comments, and please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I do a lot of talking about video games and the games industry on my channel, if that interests you at all. But thanks for watching. Until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai, and I honestly don't want to play as Boba Fett. Goodbye.